Shall I make it?
No.
Not yet. Okay.
Yours?
I think we're holding by the Mishnah on Pei Gimel Amid Beis. Is that correct? Ali.
Yes.
Okay. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. Supposed to be learning which have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. Learning Lulei Nishmas, Avakol the Basbar Binyamin, and the Son of Ben Mitzian. And for Shleima for David and Sarah. And Gedali gets Elias Ben Pegit's part. Anything else? Okay. There were certain halachas that someone sold a slave, the head of a slave, but not the whole slave, so he would end up being a partner in the whole slave. It doesn't work like that with the animals. When it comes to the animals, it works like this. That really goes by what people sell together. So someone sells the head of a large animal, doesn't sell the feet together with it. Now we're going to see that there's a contrast to that with a small animal. Small animal. That's what comes together. Certain things go together. What was it? The pig comes with the apple in the mouth or something. You get the apple. But
so this is like they're selling meat.
Yeah. No, we're talking about even if the animal is alive.
Oh, really?
But he's selling him the meat of the animal. Where does the animal end up in the slaughterhouse? In the slaughterhouse.
So you designate.
So someone would come and say, "I want to buy the head," and he says he gets the head. So he said, "Well, what about the feet?" He said, "Well, you didn't say the feet." You can say, "I was expecting the feet together." Right. Machar asaraglayim. He sells the feet. Like machar asaraysh. He didn't sell the head. Now, even though there could be some places where they do that, but in this place they don't. So that's the rule. Machar sakana, if he sells the kana is the trachea, but here it's referring to the whole lung. Like machar sakavad, you don't sell the liver together with the lung. Machar sakavad, if he sells the liver, like machar sakana, doesn't get the lung. It reminds me of when they would bring the sacrifice in the Beis Hamikdash. I think the guy that held the head would also hold the feet, or would hold a certain fat. It was like the way they walked up. There was like positions that each one had. I forget how many, 13 people or something, that they would walk up. So the guy with holding this was also holding that. But when it comes to the sale, it is what it is. This is what you ordered. That's what's going to show up in the delivery. Aval bedaka, but if it's a small animal, that would be like a sheep or something, or a goat, as opposed to a cow. Machar asaraysh, machar asaraglayim. He sells the head. He actually sells the feet together with the head. It comes together in one package. Yeah. The only thing similar that I can think of is like sometimes you buy certain things that comes with the skin or it comes with the bones or something, and you say, "Well, where's the thing?" Oh, well, you didn't ask for that, so I didn't put it in.
Daka means small.
Yeah. On the other hand, if he sells the feet, he doesn't sell the head because the head is more significant, and it's not like subordinate to the feet. It would be the opposite. He sells the head, then the feet come along. But if you sell the feet, the head doesn't come along. Machar sakana, if he sells the lung, trachea, which comes with the lung. Machar sakavad, the liver comes along with that. Machar sakavad, if he sells the liver, then le machar sakana, you don't get the lung with it. Yeah, we don't really eat lung here, but apparently they used to. Yeah. A lot of the things that have to do with the health department, they tell us what we're allowed to eat, what we're not allowed to eat. Arba midas meichen. There's, huh? I forgot this corn syrup. Yeah, that's allowed, but no chicken feet. You can't get the chicken feet. Okay. the kishka. Okay. Arba midas b'meichen. There's four levels of sales. let's say someone sells. But by the way, we're just to warn you, we're getting thrown back into a zone neshach for half a day. Remember all the laws about it wasn't Ezar Neshach, it was Hazav, overcharging, right? Or not. So if someone sells good wheat, but it turns out that the wheat wasn't so good, so the lekiach can retract because the lekiach, the purchaser, he didn't care what he bought. Now this is a discussion we'll see in the Gemara. It's a little complicated if the case is where he actually was overcharged, or is the case where he ended up getting just more wheat. It wasn't the high quality, so he got more, but nevertheless, or maybe it's not like that. Maybe he got the quality is less. No, the quality is less and the amount was less, which means that he was overcharged. But the way that we have to follow through this is, let's assume that this is going to follow the opinion, which says that when it's 1/6, the person, even though normally we said that if it's more than a 6, then the person that's being overcharged can say, I want the sale off. I want my money back entirely. It's more than a 6. At a 6, he can say, I just want the part that I was overcharged back. Right? And less than a 6, it's a done deal. Okay, the guy made money on you. Can't do anything. That's normally what we say. Over here, we're not going to say that. Over here, we're going to follow this other opinion that goes with that if it's even if it's a 6, you can still say that I want to end the sale. So what's the difference of 6 and over 6? That was that discussion over there. Okay. Let's say the opposite. Rice v'nimtzi yafes. Let's say he buys lower quality wheat and he gets good wheat. So the seller can get it back. Maybe the bags were sealed or something, and he has to open up the sacks. He opens up. He says, "Wow, he got a good quality. It's the wrong one." So both of those cases, we have one case where the purchaser can retract. We have another case where the seller can retract. That's so far 2. Reis v'nim to reis, yafis v'nim to yafis. He sells it as bad wheat and he gets bad wheat. He sells it as good wheat and he gets good wheat. No one can retract. This is red wheat and white wheat. Shechamtes is red wheat. Now, if I'm not mistaken, one of them grows in the summer, one grows in the winter. I would assume the red wheat grows in the summer, but I may be mistaken. But when does the red wheat grow? Does it grow in the summer or the winter? There's two wheats, 2 types of wheat. There's red wheat and white wheat. I think one of them is used in pastries. One of them is used in bread. It has a different. I'm not talking from Gemara. I'm talking about from my wife buying grain. is the red wheat. When does that grow? Does it grow in the summer? Okay, yeah, that we got. Okay, whatever the case is, if you buy the red wheat, you get the white wheat, and you ended up with the red wheat. Eitzim shel zayasim shel shikma, you bought olive wood, and you end up with sycamore wood shel shikma, v'nim shel zayas, you bought sycamore wood, you end up with olive wood. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know. It burns different, maybe. Maybe it's for construction. Yayin v'nim tzachaymitz. You buy wine, you end up with vinegar. Chaymitz v'nim tzayin, or you buy vinegar, you end up with wine. Those are cases where you can retract and get your money back. That's not what I purchased. That's it's totally the wrong thing. Okay. Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says, let's say someone sells something, wheat, let's say the value of 5, say whatever we want, $5, and he sells it for $6. So the person was overcharged 20%, right? Is that 20%? It's worth 5. 20%. So is that considered a sixth the way we do it? I don't know. Either way, I think there was a discussion over there. How do we measure the sixth of inside or outside? But then there was also had to do with the sixth of the money, which or is it a sixth of the item? That's the way it was worded over there. Okay, v'hukar v'amad al shmeina, but it increased in price, and it went up to 8. Do you hear what's going on? The value was only 5. The seller, the purchaser was overcharged by 20%. But it turns out that the fact that he paid an extra 20% is not such a big deal, because then it goes up 25% over his price that he paid. It goes up to 8. That's 25%, right? So it's not that he's even. The seller now lost out. He could have sold it at 8. He sold it for 6. At the time of the sale, the purchaser was overcharged by 20%, by a sixth.
At the time of the sale, was it was worth 6? At the time of the sale?
At the time of the sale, it's worth 5. He has a few hours to take the merchandise that he bought, go to a merchant, see what its real value is, and come back and get his money back. Or to see, he has that during that time that he was able to do that, where the sale is not really finalized, because you have that, you have like a week to return the item. You have 24 hours on airline tickets. You have those 24 hours to check if that's what if you got what you really bought.
The halacha is if he picks it up, he makes it.
That's true. The halacha is if he picks it up, he makes it to me. But there's one loophole that's still there during the amount of time that you have, that you can, if you were overcharged, you can get it back.
Okay.
It's like clicking on the airline ticket. Yeah. You click, but you still have 24 hours to cancel. If it's not one of those crazy airlines. Okay. So now the question is, Mi Masana, who was the one that was overcharged originally here? It was the lekeach, it was the purchaser. He ends up making money now, but meanwhile, so lekeach yechalach. Rav Chizda says the lekeach, the purchaser, he can retract v'lei meicher, not the seller. Even though now the seller's losing out, and the seller's saying, 1 second, I overcharged you. The deal should be off. He's quickly coming in like a big tzaddik. I overcharged you at the time of the sale. So he says, Mishum Damarle, that the purchaser can tell to the seller, the lekech can tell the meicher, Ilu loi inisan. Let's say you didn't overcharge me. You wouldn't be able to retract. If you would have done what you were supposed to, so the sale would have been done, and I would have made money. Hashted dainisan. Now that you overcharged me, so now we're going to reward you. We should reward you for what you did. You tried to get me, and now you want to be able to retract because you tried to get me. If you didn't try to get me, I would have made money here. This is fair and square. I would have made money. Now that you tried to get me, trying to overcharge me, now you're telling me that therefore you should. Okay, Vitana tuna. That's what he's trying to say, right? Vitana tuna. And this was actually learned in our Mishnah. I don't know what the Rashbam is saying, but Tana Tuna, he says, Tana Didan. He says, Tana, if you see in the Rashbam, Kamai. Oh, I guess tuna means Tana Didan. The Tana Tuna. And this teaching is our Mishnah. Tana Didan, I guess, is our Tana is contained in the word tuna. Kamay avuna, achuna. I'm not familiar with those words. I guess it means ours. Okay. Oh, interesting. Tana, he has taught, tuna is our Tana. However, Rabbeinu Hananel renders the Tana and the Tana Tuna teaches. That's what I always thought. The Tana Tuna is the Tana teaches. But he says, the Rashbam says, Tana, he has taught. Tuna is our Tana, and our Tana has taught. Okay, go ahead. I think the word actually the word tuna is actually Rashi uses it in French, if I'm not mistaken. Tunina. Also French. Tunis. Yeah, the word. Okay. Vitana tuna and our Tana taught Yafis Vinim Tsurais. Now we take a look at the Mishnah. If he sold him good wheat, don't worry about it. Sold good wheat and it turned into it came out that it was lower quality wheat. So lekeach yachal achzer b'yi v'lei meicher. What we're thinking now is that at the time of the sale, the wheat was quality, high quality wheat. When the lekeach gets it, turns out that it's lower quality wheat. But it turns out that the price of wheat, even low quality wheat, goes up. And we say that the only person that can retract is the purchaser, not the seller. See, it's exactly our Mishnah. What Rav Chizda taught is that if at the time of the sale, the purchaser is the one that was overcharged, even though later it ends up increasing in price, and it's the seller that's losing out, but nevertheless, it's only the purchaser that can retract from the sale, not the seller. You can't say, I want it all. Okay, and we learned that from the Mishnah with the yafis, the good wheat and the bad wheat. We're saying that even though after the sale it goes up, but the purchaser can retract, the seller can't retract. Okay, the Amar of Chizda.
I remember it saying that the seller has like more power in general than the purchaser.
Yeah. When do we say yad lekeach ala tachtayna? That's when the seller is holding the money and the item, and the item that the purchaser claims he bought also. In all those cases where we wanted to say that purchase something, does this come along with that? So the seller is going to be the one that has. Well, say you never said that. I didn't never agree to that. Okay, because it's in his hands. He's the muhsar. Rav Chizda also said, let's say it was exactly the opposite. You have an item that was worth 6, and he sells it for 5. I think that would be, that's 16%, right? 16. So it is. That's 0.66, whatever. So what happened there was that the seller was he undercharged, which means the seller, he was underpaid. The seller was underpaid, but it turns out that he wasn't really underpaid because a moment later the price of wheat went down to 3, and he bought and the purchaser paid 5. So he was actually overpaid. The same concept, just the opposite. So who wants to back out of this now? The right now at the end, the purchaser wants to back out. At the very beginning, the seller wanted to back out because he was underpaid, but now the purchaser wants to back out. So what's the rule? So me Nisana, who was the one that was in the sale itself? Who was underpaid or overpaid? It was the Meicher was underpaid. So the seller is able to retract, and not the purchaser, because the seller. Yeah, but here, listen to this logic. Here, the seller says, if you didn't underpay me, you wouldn't have been able to retract. It would have been a good sale. If you would have paid 6 for what it was really worth, then it would have been a good sale. So now that you underpaid me, paid me 5, now you want to retract, because really it went down and now it's only worth 3.
Yeah.
So you want to because of your crime, we're gonna give in to you. If you would have done everything correct, the sale would have been done. Now that you deceived me and you underpaid me, now we're gonna give in to you. B'tanatuna. And this was actually taught in our Mishnah. If the wheat was not quality wheat, turned out officially when he sold it, it wasn't quality. It turns out when he gets it, look what lo and behold, it's good wheat in the bag. The seller is able to retract, but the purchaser is not able to retract, even though now the price of wheat, even though the price of wheat now drops, but it goes down. Even the good wheat went down, and he could get everything for less, but the purchaser can't retract. Okay, so this is a very interesting like the setup of the Gemara. We have Rav Chisda teaching us these halachas, and he brings the Mishnah as a proof. And now the Gemara says, well, if you have a Mishnah as a proof, my kamashkelan masnisani. What do I need you, Rav Chisda, to tell me anything? If you supported it so well from the Mishnah, so I don't need you. The Mishnah told me exactly what you were saying.
I don't understand how in the first case the seller can't renege on the sale, just the purchaser. But in this case,
it's exactly that. It's exactly the same story.
Now all of a sudden, the seller can.
Yeah, because whoever was deceived is able to renege. In the first case, the purchaser was overcharged, so he's the one that's able to back out. Second case, the seller was underpaid, so he's the one that's able to back out. Yeah. Okay. The Gemara says like this: Imim masnisin. If I would just have our Mishnah. Now you notice in the Mishnah, the Mishnah is slightly different than the case of Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda is talking about value of money. The Mishnah is talking about quality of wheat. So we put the two together. We said that the quality of wheat is probably, 1/6 more or something like that, and that's the way we understood it. But if we didn't have Rav Chisda, it's possible to learn the Mishnah. I could have said, Dilma the Rav Chisda Tavaya Matzi Hajibu. Maybe in the case of Rav Chisda, okay, the case of the Mishnah, only one of them can retract. But in the case of Rav Chisda, they both could retract. Why is that? Maybe we could say that because there's that leeway of time for one side to cancel the sale, I could think that maybe they both could cancel it. Imagine if you buy your airline ticket and you have 24 hours to cancel. I could think that maybe if you have 24 hours to cancel, then the airline also has 24 hours to cancel. This would not be fun. They found someone to pay a higher price than you, they just cancel.
They still cancel like right before.
They do it anyway, but they don't say that they're allowed to. They do it they blame it on the weather.
They oversell it.
Right. So I could think that because there's that leeway of time, they both could cancel. But Masnisen, why would I only think that in the Mishnah? I could think in the Mishnah because say like this. I'm learning it according to. I don't know if you have any commentaries there. Learning it according to the way he says. The Rashbam says his grandfather learned it. It goes like this. I guess if that means Rashi. The Mishnah didn't have any Aina. There was no difference in the price. The price was exactly the same because you either got more wheat or less wheat. But the Lekeach can say, but that's not what I wanted. The Lekeach can always say, I didn't want to sell that. The Meicher, see what happens is, he says, I want to buy good wheat. So the Meicher gives him lousy wheat, a low grade wheat. So the seller says, okay, I want to retract because the price of wheat now went up. And the purchaser says, no, only the purchaser can retract, not the seller. So I know that I would accept that in the Mishnah, it would only be the purchaser that can retract and not the seller. In Rav Chizda's case, I could think that maybe they both retract it. They both can retract. Now the reason is because in the Mishnah the price is the same. The seller says, but I wanted to sell you good wheat. I ended up giving you the bad wheat. So he says like this. It's not a mistake that you gave me the bad wheat, because everything that you sell me is always bad. The purchaser is always complaining. The purchaser, that's a pasuk. There's a pasuk in Mishlei that says Ra Ra Yemer Akaina, and I forget how it ends, but it says everything that you sell me is always bad. But then he goes and he boasts about it to his friends. When he in the shop, he says, what you sold me is no good, but then he shows it off outside. He shows it off. So he's saying like this, that if the purchaser wants to retract, so he could retract because he didn't get, but when the seller decides he wants to retract, he's saying that, but I didn't give you the wheat that you wanted because you said you wanted good wheat and I gave you bad wheat. He says, no, even your good wheat is bad. I said good wheat, but all your wheat is bad. So this is exactly what I wanted. He can always claim that your wheat is always bad. So anyway, that's one shot over here. Rashbam has another shot. It sort of flips it. And let me see the comment how they put it. Let's see, number 6, number 5, number 6. At the time of the sale, okay, I'm sorry. Number 8. Okay, let's leave it. The way we did it was the way Rashi explains and Rashbam says, but he has another shot. It switches it and has to do with different girsayos also. Okay. How does this end? He says, I could have thought you have to take off the Salkadaita Chamina. Salkadaita Chamina in our Gemara means that I thought you could say that. But the rest, the way the gears is put in the Rashbam, Masnisan Hainu Taima Misham Derara Yemakina. The reason for the Mishnah is because when you're talking about the quality of the wheat, the purchaser always says that your quality is no good, and therefore the seller can't say I gave you the wrong one. Okay. Next piece. Shachamtes v'nimtzis levana. Like a funny Gemara thrown in here. Red wheat that's turns out was white wheat. Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says midiktani levana. The fact that it says that it was white wheat. Shema mina hayshimsha sumkasihi. It must mean that the sun is red. Teida. It's the proof. Because samkatzafra upanya. Because it's red in the morning and the evening. Like a chazin and kuliyayma. This that it doesn't look red throughout the day. It's just because it's so bright, our eyes can't see it well. So, but really, the sun is supposed to be red. Yeah, I think the kids when they draw the sun, they make it yellow.
Yeah.
But the sun is really I don't know if it's ever yellow.
Kind of white.
It's white. It's white during the day. It's white. Yeah. In pictures, it's like black and white. So in the olden days, things were black and white.
Can you stare in the sun? Most people can't.
In the morning and the evening, you can look at the sun. Right? Sunrise, sunset. You can look at the sun. I don't know if it's healthy, but I mean you're able to see it. Okay.
Because it's like when we learned
Yeah, right, that's the times. All these machlokas.
The Bein Hashmashas.
Yeah, Bein Hashmashas.
Meisvei, the Gemara is a question of Mario Amik Minar. By Tzaras, it says that if there's Tzaras, the white blotch is deeper than the skin. It looks deeper. Kamara Chama Amuk Minatel. It's like the sun that looks deeper than the shade. The sunlight looks deeper than it looks like it goes sunken over the shade. It's so the problem is V'hasam Lavanu, but it's talking about white. So obviously the sun is white. We're talking about the Tzaras. And Tzaras is compared to the sun. The sun looks deeper than the shade. We say that the white looks deeper than the shade. So obviously, the sun is white, not red. Because that's our comparison. The comparison is the sun to the Tzaras. And we do this comparison that like the sun looks deeper. And it's because white looks deeper than that. When it says Kamar Chama v'lei Kamar Chama, no. It's like the sun, but not like the sun. Kamar Chama damukum menatzel. It's like the sun, the Tzaras, is that because it's deeper than the shade. V'lei Kamar Chama di'alacham alavan hakadam. Doesn't have to do with it. It's not saying that the sun is white. It's saying the sun is deeper than the shade, and the Tzaras is deeper than the regular skin color. But that doesn't mean that it's white. It doesn't mean the sun is white. The sun is really red, but it's still deeper than the shade. It's like the sun, but not like the sun. Sun like the sun that it looks deeper, like it's sunken, and it's not like the sun that the color is different. And this that you thought that maybe the sun is white. What were you going to do with the obvious question that in the morning and in the evening the sun looks red? It says in the morning, the reason why the sun looks red is because it goes by the rose garden, right, of Gan Eden. So therefore it takes on the color of the things that are surrounding it. So in Bepanya in the evening, the Chalfa Pischa Gehenim, it goes by the gateway of Gehenim, which is red from the fires there. So that's why it looks red, but it's not because the sun itself is actually red. Sun we thought maybe is white. Some say it's the opposite. Now the opposite would mean that because the sun is on the other side, so it's shining off, the reflection back from Gan Eden would come in the evening, and the reflection back from Gehenna would come in the morning because it's shining from east to west. So either it's going by that gate or it's reflecting back from that gate. Okay.
AI says all these other colors, red, orange, just atmosphere.
Right.
So if she read our sun's yellow.
The
yeah, two things. And what's the color of the sun at Krypton? Right. Wrong. There's two suns of Krypton.
The light of the sun ends up being refracted. Most of the shades of the rainbow end up being refracted except for the blue, which ends up making our sky blue, which makes the oceans blue.
Oh, I always thought the sky's blue because it reflects the ocean.
Me too.
No, the ocean is
stupid.
The ocean reflects the sky. That's blue because the rest of the light is very
dumb.
Why is sometimes just 1 second?
That's when it's lower. The deeper it is, the more blue it gets. No, the deeper it is, the more blue. Like in Crater Lake,
Deep
you know,
blue
the
ocean.
Oh yeah,
Oregon,
right.
It's like 2,000 feet.
So you're saying the blue, something with the oxygen makes the blue stay and all the other.
Well,
colors in the
the
spectrum.
atmosphere makes the light, you know, like in the rainbow, it makes it refracts the light. So the orange and all of that ends up going off into space, and we just get the blue light.
So cool. Can you give us a science class? We're gonna learn everything.
Yeah, but that has to do because it's less deep. The more shallow it is, the more green it is. You see the green on the shallow, and as it gets deeper, it gets more blue.
I was taught wrong.
It's on a different planet.
Stop reading super.
Yeah, but the other planets don't have like the atmosphere that we have.
Woo!
Yayin v'nim tchemetz shneim. Wine that turned out to be vinegar. Shneim b'chelim lachsabem. Both can retract. I made a mistake.
Yeah, not just on Krypton, the sun was red.
No, he's telling me about Superman. On Krypton, the sun is red.
Right.
Okay.
Make it
So maybe that's the
powerfully
Gemara
yellow.
over here. Yeah, that's the Gemara.
However, when Superman is exposed to the yellow sun of Earth,
Yeah.
it grants him this power.
Read back, watch
You-
back this year.
You knew it, man. You knew it.
I'm so tricky. Superwoman.
I don't know science, but I know Superman.
Rabbi,
Leimer Masnisim
Okay,
Rebbe,
let's go.
V'lei Rabbanan. Let's say our Mishnah is the opinion of Rebbe and not the Rabbanan. The Tanya was studying the Brisa. We send the page. Yayin v'chaymet min echadu. Wine and vinegar is one species. We're talking about if you take truma, you separate 2%. You have to give to the kayan. So you have to take from the item that type itself. You can't take from one type on another type. It's not just giving value to the kayan. If it's wine, you have to give wine. If it's pomegranates, you have to give pomegranate. What about if you take from wine on vinegar? So the Chachamim say wine and vinegar is the same because it's both grapes and it started as wine. And maybe you're not supposed to like that, but it's acceptable as truma. Rebbe says no, wine and vinegar is two species. So when we say over here that someone buys wine and he ends up with vinegar, that he can give it back, it sounds like it's Rebbe's opinion that he didn't get what he wanted to buy. Kumar says no. I feel tamer Rabban. You could say that our Mishnah is even the opinion of the Rabbanan. Not can like the Rabban allowed the Rebbe al-Linyan Ma'aser Truma. Why did? What's the explanation of this machlekes? That only has to do with Ma'aser and Truma. The Rabbi Lai, like Rabbi Lai says, Dam Rabbi Lai, how do you know that if someone takes truma from something that's an inferior quality on a superior quality, that it still is truma, even though you're not supposed to do that? You shouldn't carry the sin when you take away the best from it. But if it doesn't work, then why is it a sin? Nothing happened. If you take the truma from the inferior on the superior, why is it considered a sin? It says you shouldn't have a sin when you do that. But if it doesn't work, then okay, it didn't work. Nothing happened. It says mikan, it must mean the term in truma that it does work. It is truma. You're just not allowed to do that. But it's really truma. So we see that it's going to work. That's what the opinion of the Rabbanan. If it's a buying and selling, if someone buys wine and he ends up with vinegar, that doesn't have to do with one species inferior or superior quality. That has to do with what the person needed for. He was making meat. He needed some wine poured into the meat. He didn't want vinegar in the meat. Or maybe wanted to make kiddush. He doesn't want vinegar for kiddush. So some people wanted salad dressing. They wanted vinegar. They didn't want wine. They didn't want the wine. So over there, that has to do with the purchase. So if you buy wine and you end up with vinegar, you could return it. But when it comes to taking truma, that's a machlekes if it works. It's inferior quality or superior, the same quality. Okay, let's go a drop further. Is that okay?
Dropping.
Mendel? Where will you teach from tomorrow? Did you start looking at it?
It didn't start, but
Okay, so I can go a little further. I'm not going to be taking. Huh?
Be more with the rest of it.
Okay, you work it
I'll
out.
prepare, but we'll work for it together.
Hamaycher says the
You get
Mishnah.
4 more days.
Hamaycher pairs the chavera. If someone sells fruits to his friend, mashach v'lei madad. They made a price already, how much each pound is worth or how much each thing is worth. And he pulls it, but he didn't measure it. So in other words, he says, I'm just going to take this. And he starts taking it into his car, right? He's taking it out. So kana, he acquires it, even though we didn't measure how much he took yet. But whatever he took, whatever he already pulled is his, but we didn't have the set amount. Madad v'lei mashach. Let's say he starts to calculate how much he's taking. He's measuring, he's pouring it into something, into this on the scale. But he doesn't take it out. So leikanet, he doesn't acquire it yet. Just for measuring, that's not enough. If the person is wise, so seiches mekayme, he doesn't have to take it out. He could just rent that spot from the seller, and then that's his spot. He rented a spot, and that could be his kinyan because he can acquire it on the location. Someone buys flax from his friend that's going to turn it into linen. You have to move it away. But if it's attached to the ground, and you remove it, then you're kainet. We have to see in the Gemara how that's going to work. Okay, Amar Rabasi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabasi says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Should we stop here?
Go.
Okay. Rabasi says, well, it's going to be hard to stop in the middle.
Keep going.
Okay. Rabasi says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, there's going to be a contradiction here, and we'll answer. Mada, that he measures it, and he puts it down in the area. The simta was like a bus stop or something. It's a public area, but the spot that you're in is considered yours. No one can tell you, get off the seat, my seat. That's considered. Kana, he acquires it. Amalei Reb Zera Rabasi. Reb Zera says to Rabasi, Shamalei Shama Rebbe Ela b'maydel teich kupase. How do you know that we're talking about where it's, you see, the way Rabasi put it is that even though it's in the boxes or containers of the seller, now that he put it down in the simta, in that area, it's already acquired to the purchaser. Maybe we're talking about where you put it into the purchaser's containers, and that's why he acquires it, because it's in his containers. Amalei, Sir Rabasi says, apparently this fellow has never learned anything in his life.
Ooh, ouch.
If you put it into the seller's containers, do I need Rabbi Yochanan to tell me that you acquire it? You acquire it everywhere, the seller's container. Now, this is a discussion. If the purchaser brings his own bags and it's still in the store, and the seller puts it into the bags of the purchaser, is it considered the purchaser's already before the purchaser takes it, lifts it up and moves it? Just by putting it into his bag, is his containers considered separate from the store? Considered it's in his property already and it becomes his? That's a discussion. Apparently, Rabasi says yes. He says if it's in his bags, it doesn't. Even if it's in his store, it would be his. He doesn't have to put it in the simta. So kibla minei, I like kibla minei. Did Reb Zera accept Rabasi's statement about this? So Tashima, come and listen. Okay, let's leave it over here. I'll leave it for you. You'll go through this. Right?
We continue.
Yeah, Mendel's gonna teach tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.